There are moments in life when we feel invisible. No matter how hard we try, we are unheard, even pushed to the margins of our own story. But this isn't the fault of others. It's a reminder. We must reclaim our inner authority instead of chasing control over what lies outside. And that's where Stoicism, ancient yet fiercely alive, enters. It makes no promise to change the world, but it grants us the power to transform our safer selves. This video isn't about tactics of manipulation. It's an invitation to live with substance, with real worth, to earn respect not by pleasing others, but by becoming someone worthy of it. If you've ever felt overlooked, worn down by the need to prove your worth, maybe the answer isn't trying harder. Maybe it's becoming different from within. 1. Keep a portion mysterious. Mystery draws not words. There's a curious paradox in life. What we fully reveal often becomes ordinary in the eyes of others. The more predictable we are, the easier we are to forget. Meanwhile, what draws people in, what keeps them curious and engaged, are the things left unsaid, the shadows unlit, the puzzles unsolved. This is the quiet power of intentional mystery. In Stoic philosophy, restraint and discretion are not ephesians, but marks of inner strength. The wise do not need to shout to be heard. They let their presence, their choices, and the way they live speak for them. To keep something to yourself is not a social tactic, but a deliberate, grounded way of living, measured and trustworthy. We live in an age where exposure is encouraged. Social media turns life into a stage where everyone races to tell all. Feelings, heartbreaks, triumphs, beliefs, opinions. We volunteer ourselves to strangers as much as to loved ones. But in trying to connect, we sometimes forfeit the magnetism of what remains unawed. Mystery doesn't stem from withholding to manipulate. It arises from knowing what deserves to be shared and what deserves to be kept. It begins with the awareness. I don't need to say everything to be understood, nor prove anything to be valued. The Stoic holds back a part of their inner life. They understand that what is sacred, emotions, thoughts, ideals, should not be exposed before they have matured. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not for the world. His reflections were a dialogue between the man and the depths within him. The mystery here is not to impress, but to protect one's energy from being squandered, and to shield the inner core from the chaos of external gozies. In real life, you'll notice that those who are respected and remembered are not the ones who talk the most, but the ones others want to know more about. When you walk into a room and don't need to list your accomplishments, but others are compelled to ask, you hold the upper hand. When others speak more than you do, you give them the gift of feeling safe, while preserving your own internal gravity. Mystery isn't a tactic, it's a trait. It comes from living deeply enough that validation is unnecessary. At work, those who constantly reveal their thoughts, strategies, and intentions often end up being predictable and easily outmaneuvered. In love, if you're always explaining every feeling, reacting instantly, disclosing every longing, attraction fades, not because you're wrong, but because allure is born from depth and just enough distance. Like a great piece of music, without pauses, every note becomes noise. In conversation, mystery makes others think about you longer, remember you more vividly, and respect you more deeply. Yet, don't mistake this for becoming a stone wall, emotionless or withdrawn. Mystery here isn't isolation, it's discernment. Share part of yourself, not all of it. Offer what's necessary. Guard what's most precious. Let people see you, but not believe they've seen all of you. Keep sacred a private inner ground, one only the truly worthy may enter. One of the most profound lessons from Stoicism is the discipline of silence. not silence from weakness, but from not needing to prove anything. And in that very lack of need lies an undeniable magnetism. In a noisy world, the one who knows when to be silent is the one who gets heard the most. If you wish to stand out, resist the urge to perform. Let your energy speak. Let your composure be the difference. Live like a mountain, immovable, yet drawing all eyes. Keep a part of yourself unknown, not to be desired, but to avoid being wasted on those unworthy. Because in the end, the one who doesn't reveal everything is the one who still has more to give. And in this world, it's those with something yet to be discovered who truly captivate us. 2. The power of silence. When words wait, they weigh more. We grow up in a world that prizes expression, where speaking is seen as the way to assert identity, display intelligence, and build influence. From an early age, we're taught to speak up, share our thoughts, have opinions. But one truth rarely told is this: sometimes it's the silence that lingers longer than a nice-spoken word. Silence isn't absence, it's selective presence. In Stoicism, silence is a form of power. It gives us command over space, over emotion, and over the way we are perceived. How many times have we regretted what we said in anger? How often have we talked too much in a conversation that didn't need it? How many times have we worn ourselves out trying to fill the air, only to realize silence might have been the wiser move? Stoics never call for total silence, but they insist on speaking with purpose, and sometimes not speaking is the most potent form of expression. Silence isn't retreat, it's a declaration. I am not ruled by impulse. I choose how I respond. I am not compelled to. Silence creates space for others to reflect. When you don't rush to reply, don't react on cue, don't match the speed of someone else's urgency, you quietly compel them to listen more closely to what you haven't said. And something strange happens. They begin to speak more. In psychology, this is called discomfort in silence. When one side sits still, the other scrambles to fill the gap, often revealing more than they meant to. That's why those who master the art of silence gain an edge in conversation, negotiation, and relationships. Notice how people with real presence often speak less, but their words carry weight. That's because they don't dilute their voice. They let silence speak for them. Silence allows people to feel you, not just hear you. And because of that, when you do speak, people pause to listen. Silence raises the value of words, like a painting framed by empty space. Speak non-stop, and words become noise. But when you hold a beat, your message lingers far longer in the minds of others. In daily life, we can practice the strength of silence through small acts, not replying to a message in the heat of emotion, not reacting immediately when provoked, not explaining ourselves when no one's truly listening. We can pause before speaking and ask, is this necessary? Will it bring peace or more fuel to the fire? A single beat of silence in a conversation can shift the whole mood, from tension to calm, from conflict to understanding. Silence is also a display of inner stability. The confident are not afraid of quiet. They feel no urge to fill silence with small talk or careless jokes. They are at ease within their own space, and that in turn puts others at ease. Stoics believed we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Silence lets us observe more, understand others more deeply, and see ourselves with sharper clarity. What's unique about silence is that it can't be faked. You can pretend to care, pretend to smile, pretend to be kind, but you can't fake silence at the right moment. It only arises when your inner world is steady, disciplined, and wise enough to know not every thought needs to be voiced. Not every statement deserves a reply. Silence is never empty when filled with depth. And just like a rest note in music, well-placed silence doesn't make you fade. It's what makes you stand out. 3. Create a sense of rarity. What's rare becomes valuable. We often overlook a simple yet powerful truth. People tend to value what's hard to obtain. What's always present, always accessible, gradually fades into the background. But something that appears at the right moment, reveals just enough, and is reserved for those who truly appreciate it, carries a unique allure. This is the psychological principle of scarcity, and the Stoics understood it well centuries ago, not as a means of manipulation, but as a practice of guarding our value, living with depth, with principles, and not presenting ourselves like merchandise on display. We often fall into the trap of being overly available, always showing up, answering messages instantly, saying yes to every invitation, appearing everywhere with a ready smile. But in trying to prove our worth, we make ourselves common. And what is always available, others begin to take for granted. They stop noticing. Yet the moment you become selective in your presence, something shifts. People begin to notice. You're no longer background noise. They ask about you when you're not around. They listen more intently when you speak, and they cherish the moments you choose to show up. Creating a sense of rarity doesn't mean playing hard to get or pretending to be distant. It comes from self-respect and the conscious management of your energy. You understand you cannot give constantly. You recognize that attention is a precious resource, and you live by principles to protect it. A Stoic doesn't let themselves be pulled into the frantic rhythm of always being seen out of fear of being forgotten. They know true presence holds value only when it's placed wisely, at the right time, in the right space, for relationships that are truly worth it. This principle of scarcity matters deeply in relationships. If you're too eager, too accommodating, too predictable, others, intentionally or not, will value you less, not because you lack worth, but because you diminish your own value by showing up unconditionally. When you begin to live at your own pace, when you carve out solitude to grow, when you don't respond instantly to every message, when you say no to meaningless encounters, you're teaching others something vital. I value my time, and if you wish to be part of my life, you should value it too. Scarcity also applies to emotions and reactions. Not every situation deserves your feelings. Not everyone has earned access to your thoughts or your heart. When you can hold back, avoid reacting instantly, and refrain from opening up too quickly, you create mystery, and mystery invites curiosity. In a world where people overshare with ease, the one who withholds becomes the one others remember. And as we know, what stirs curiosity tends to stay with us. One more element matters here: time. Your time is not meant to fill every empty slot. If you attend every event, accept every request, you're draining your energy on things that don't deserve it. Those who live with depth structure their presence, not to appear busy, but to become harder to scatter. Someone who shows up only when it truly counts. And when you achieve this, you won't need to seek priority. You'll be given it effortlessly. What's rare becomes valuable, not simply because others see you less, but because you understand the worth of absence. When you withdraw from draining spaces, when you say no to interactions that don't help you grow, when you choose space over meaningless noise, you send a message: I'm not afraid to be forgotten. I just want to live in alignment with what matters. That is strength. That is self-mastery. And that is the kind of freedom few possess, but everyone recognizes when they stand in its presence. 4. Master your emotions. Resist impulsive reactions. Respond less. Control more. Emotion is the most primal part of who we are. It strikes like lightning, sudden, instinctive, uninvited. A single word, a glance slightly off, or an outcome that defies expectation. And emotion surges like a violent wave. Anger, hurt, sorrow, disappointment. Our first reaction is reflexive. And without awareness, emotion starts steering behavior before we even realize it. Stoicism never teaches us to suppress emotion, but to master it. Like reins in the hands of one who refuses to let a wild horse bolt unchecked, the Stoic understands that emotion is natural. There is no need to resist its existence. But what matters is not letting it take the wheel. We may feel anger, but that doesn't mean we must lash out. We may feel wounded, but that doesn't justify coldness or revenge. We may feel fear, but still move forward with resolve. Strength is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of clarity in the midst of intensity. And that is the clearest mark of someone with depth. In an age of rapid everything, instant messaging, snap judgments, quick takes, the ability to pause before reacting becomes a kind of superpower. A single second between emotion and action is where self-mastery lives. In that breath, you can choose not to say what wounds, not to argue you, not to remain in a draining relationship, and you'll come to see it's not fear or weakness, but the understanding that peace matters more. Impulsive reactions signal a mind that's not in command. When you feel compelled to speak immediately, to act out every surge of emotion, you become your own captive. Like a ship tossed in open waters, you drift wherever the winds blow. But when you observe your emotions, acknowledge them without denial or attachment, you begin to steer. You stop letting fleeting moods ruin what took years to build. You don't let one word undo an entire bond. You don't let ego lead because something greater is in charge. Reason, discipline, and calm. One of the most powerful ways to train emotional control is writing. A timeless, Stoic habit. When you put feelings into words, you stop being ruled by them. You gain distance, perspective, freedom. Another method is negative visualization. Mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios so they don't catch you off guard. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. The surprise disappears because you've already met that fear in your mind. Emotional mastery is also a gift to others. When you are calm, you create safety. People feel heard, not judged. They open up. You become a grounding force, not a source of chaos. And here's the truth. Those who control themselves are the ones others respect. No one admires the hothead, but everyone trusts the one who remains centered in the storm. Controlling emotion isn't a destination. It's a practice. You'll stumble. You'll misstep. But if each day you pause before acting, ask before reacting, choose clarity over impulse, you're cultivating real power. A power not rooted in changing others, but in governing yourself. And that is the Stoic path. True freedom doesn't mean escaping emotion. It means no longer being ruled by it. 5. Put yourself first. Respect yourself to be respected. There's a truth many only discover after repeated pain. If you don't respect yourself, don't expect others to do it for you. In the pursuit of love, validation, and belonging, many lose themselves. We tolerate toxic relationships, say yes to what drains us, stay silent in the face of disrespect, just to hold a place in someone else's life. And yet, the more we lower our standards, the less we're valued. The more we endure, the more others assume it's owed to them. Stoicism never glorifies blind sacrifice. On the contrary, it teaches a fundamental truth: to live rightly, you must first know your worth. Putting yourself first is not selfishness. It's not saying, "Only I matter," but rather a steady declaration: I will not accept less than what I deserve. When you begin to weigh your own value, everything in life shifts. You no longer say yes to every offer. You stop chasing relationships that make you feel small. You no longer use busyness to avoid confronting your inner world. Instead, you take time to understand what you truly need, where you stand, and what gives your life meaning. To the Stoic, self-governance is the root of a good life. And to govern yourself, you must learn to manage your time, your emotions, your energy. It starts in the seemingly trivial. Do you wake up on time? Do you set boundaries at work? Do you let your mind drift endlessly through social media? Or do you pause to observe and live with intention? When you say no to what doesn't serve your growth, you're sending a message to the world. I know my worth, and I won't bargain with it. Others will mirror the way you treat yourself. If you don't protect your dignity, neither will they. One of the clearest signs of putting yourself first is the ability to be alone without feeling empty. We often get swept up in crowds, in relationships, in constant interaction, driven by a fear of loneliness. But the Stoic believes, only when you are strong enough to be alone are you strong enough to enter any relationship without losing yourself. From that healthy solitude, you build inner strength. You learn to create peace for yourself, to find joy in your own presence, to heal on your own terms. And when you step into the world, you carry no hunger to be filled. You simply share the strongest version of who you already are. Prioritizing yourself also means taking care of your body, sharpening your mind, and keeping your thoughts clear. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind deserves better than to be wasted on meaningless things." When you read, exercise, meditate, learn, and most importantly, choose carefully what enters your mind, you're feeding yourself from the roots up. Confidence doesn't shout, it's built quietly from within. The Stoic doesn't need attention to feel seen. They show up with the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are, and others sense it. Respecting yourself also requires that you take responsibility for your life. No blaming, no complaining, no waiting to be saved. Stoicism teaches us you cannot control what happens out there, but how you respond, how you choose to live, will always be in your hands. When you take ownership of your own happiness, you stop bending to judgment, stop being manipulated by others' expectations, and stop trading your peace just to maintain appearances. And one day you'll realize, when you start living in alignment with your values, when you stop trying to please everyone, when you put yourself first, the right people will come to you, the right opportunities will open, and you won't need to chase respect anymore. You'll command it, simply by being you. 6. The art of listening. Deep listening is a silent form of influence. In a world where everyone wants to speak, to be seen, to be validated, choosing to listen, truly listen, is no longer a simple act, but a powerful statement of composure and inner strength. Listening is not staying quiet while waiting for your turn to talk, nor is it nodding absent-mindedly. Listening is an intentional act, a deep presence in which you step aside to understand the other, not just with your ears, but with your mind and your heart. And in that silence, you create influence, not loud, not forceful, but lasting and profound. Stoicism grounds its philosophy in understanding the self and the world through observation, reflection, and humility. Epictetus once reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen more than we speak." In this view, listening is not merely a communication skill, but a form of self-discipline. The Stoic does not rush to respond, does not react on impulse, for they understand that every word is a touch upon the world. It can heal, or it can harm. And to speak at the right time, in the right way, one must first listen. so they know where they truly stand in relation to others. True listening requires the ego to step aside. When you are focused on what to say next, you've already broken the connection with the one speaking. But when you release the urge to perform and turn your full attention to every word, every pause, every expression, they feel it. They sense, I'm here and I see you. The feeling of being seen and heard is one of our deepest human needs. And when you meet that need, you don't have to force admiration. Others open up, trust you, and offer genuine respect. One of the great powers of the true listener is the ability to see beyond the surface. Often, what people say isn't what they truly mean. Sadness hides behind laughter. Pain masks itself as distance. A cry for help is tucked into casual complaints. The one who listens with the heart will notice, not to analyze or expose, but to be present with compassion. In a world full of noise and shallow understanding, a person who listens deeply becomes a rare refuge amid the chaos. Listening is also a way to guide a conversation without controlling it. When you don't interrupt, don't dominate, don't force others to hear you, you say the rhythm. People begin to feel safe with you because they are not judged, not rushed, not pressured to be right or concise. And when people feel safe, they speak truthfully, they trust you, they remember you as someone rare, the kind of person they can talk to without feeling small. Stoics believe empathy doesn't come from saying the right thing. It comes from hearing enough. And when you truly empathize, you influence others not through instruction, but through presence. At work, in friendship, in family. Those who listen are the ones sought out in difficult times, not because they have perfect advice, but because they hold space for others to discover their own answers. That is the quiet power of influence, not manipulative, not domineering, but deep and enduring. Deep listening requires training because it runs counter to our habitual need to react quickly, prove a point, or win an argument. But each time you choose to pause, to let someone finish, to ask another question instead of rushing to judgment, you're cultivating emotional wisdom, inner calm, and the ability to build real connection. And if you ask, what can I do to carry more weight in the eyes of others? The answer may not lie in how you speak, but in how much you truly hear. 7. Give before you ask. Lead with generosity, and value will find you. We live in an age where everyone is in a hurry to receive recognition, attention, rewards, love, and respect, even when little has been offered in return. In a world obsessed with speed and the idea of instant entitlement, choosing to live by the principle of give before you ask is not only countercultural, it's a profound expression of maturity and self-mastery. Stoicism teaches that we only truly control what we give. The rest belongs to fate, and it is in that very surrender that real value is born. When you choose to give, not to get something back, but because you have something genuinely worth sharing, you rise to a higher way of living. It's no longer a life ruled by calculation, but one grounded in inner wholeness. You offer kindness because you are kind. You support others because you understand hardship. You take time to listen, not to gain approval, but because you honor the presence of the person in front of you. And then, something unexpected happens. People begin to remember you, trust you, appreciate you, not because you demanded it, but because your actions allowed them to feel it. Giving doesn't need to be grand. Sometimes it's a timely word of encouragement, a silent but sincere response, a knowing glance when someone's lost their way. Those who live with depth never treat generosity as a tactic to gain something. They don't use kindness as a strategy for advantage. It's simply who they are. and that makes every act carry weight. A Stoic does not chase external validation. They act rightly because they live by an inner standard that expects no immediate reward. And paradoxically, such people often receive the most trust, respect, and a love that endures. In the workplace, if you're the one who puts the team first, helps colleagues when you can, and shares knowledge freely, you won't have to campaign for recognition. Your name will be remembered when it matters. In relationships, if you offer safety, presence, patience, and real attention, the other person will begin to see your worth, not through your promises, but through your consistent actions. In any setting, the energy you offer is felt, and people respond in kind, reflecting the very character you bring into the space. Still, it's essential to give without expectation. If you're giving to get something back, it's no longer giving. It's a transaction, and transactions don't build real connection. Stoicism reminds us, true reward isn't found outside. It's the quiet certainty that you lived by your principles. When you offer help, kindness, or goodness, even when no one sees it, the reward is already yours. You've remained true to yourself. Leading with generosity is also a form of initiative. Instead of waiting for others to treat you well, you go first. Instead of waiting for affection, you show it. Instead of complaining about your environment, you become a source of positivity within it. And when you live this way, you stop feeling small. You become a force of change, whether in a team, a family, or a community. You're not just existing. You're influencing. And the best part is this: when your giving comes from inner abundance, it never depletes you. On the contrary, it strengthens your self-trust. It sharpens your awareness of true worth, not measured by praise, but by how you treat the world when no one is watching. So if you're looking for a way to carry more weight in the eyes of others, start by becoming someone who gives sincerely, not because you want to be seen, but because you simply can't live any other way. 8. Keep your word, even the smallest one. Trust is built in the details. Keeping your word sounds simple, yet it remains one of the toughest tests of character. In today's world, promises are tossed around casually. A nod, a message, or a quick, "I'll do it tomorrow," just to offer reassurance. But the issue isn't whether we promise, it's whether we follow through. Because it's in the smallest things that people begin to form their impression of us. And over time, those small things accumulate into something priceless: credibility. Stoicism treats alignment between word and action as a core moral principle. Seneca once said, "A worthy mind is one honest with itself," which means when we make a promise, even to ourselves, keeping it isn't just about duty. It reflects the level of our self-mastery. Those who promise easily but retract even easier don't just let others down. They quietly lose trust in themselves. Each time you say, "I'll do it," "I'll be on time," or "I'll start tomorrow," and fail to follow through, you're not just disappointing others. You're breaking the internal link between thought and action. That's when self-respect erodes and your sense of control begins to slip. So keeping your word, even the smallest one, isn't about impressing others. It's about preserving your own dignity. The Stoic knows no grand declarations are needed. Just live in a way where your words and actions match, daily, consistently. In a world full of broken promises and justifications, someone who keeps theirs stands out, not for being perfect, but for being steady. Steady in values, in choice, in commitments. And that's what earns trust. Keeping your word doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means being clear in your speech. You don't promise what you're unsure you can fulfill. You don't commit unless you're ready to see it through. You learn to say no more often, so your yes carries weight. Integrity lies not in how often you agree, but in how consistently you deliver, even when it's no longer easy or convenient. And let's not forget, the promises we make to ourselves matter just as much. The quiet commitments to rise early, to exercise, to limit screen time, to read, to journal, when broken too often, lead to self-doubt. When you stop trusting your own word, you lose inner stability, long-term drive, and become reactive to the world. But if you keep even the smallest self-promise, you're laying the groundwork for real confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation, because you know you are reliable. Keeping your word also communicates your values. At work, when you meet deadlines; in friendship, when you show up; in love, when you honor the little things. In all of it, you're telling the world, I'm reliable, I'm grounded. I understand that words carry weight. And when you live like this, you don't need to chase opportunity. Opportunity comes to you. In the end, keeping your word doesn't make you rigid. It makes you strong, because only those who finish what they promise truly hold the reins of their own lives. 9. The courage to walk away. Letting go is the highest form of strength. One of the deepest signs of inner strength doesn't lie in endurance, in holding on, or in the struggle to fix everything until exhaustion. It lies in the ability to walk away when necessary, to leave a relationship where trust is gone, to step back from a job that suffocates your values, to decline an opportunity if it costs your inner peace, to let go when staying means losing yourself further. Stoicism doesn't teach us to be cold or indifferent, but to know our limits, to recognize the point where healthy endurance ends, and from there, to choose our own path firmly, without regret. We're often taught to never give up, that walking away means weakness, but no one tells us that clinging to something that no longer fits may be the greatest weakness of all. Staying isn't always loyalty. Leaving isn't always betrayal. Sometimes the bravest thing you can say to yourself is, I deserve something different. And when you have the courage to turn your back on what no longer nourishes you, that's when you truly begin to own your life. Stoics believe freedom doesn't come from what we hold on to, but from what we can release without fear. Fear of loss is the root of much suffering. We fear losing someone, so we lose ourselves. We fear losing a job, so we endure what violates our core. We fear losing our image, so we live for others' expectations instead of our own truth. And the irony is, the tighter we cling, the more control we lose. The harder we grip, the more happiness slips away. The more we fear loss, the more we live in anxiety and dependence. The only path out of that pain is readiness, the willingness to walk away. But readiness doesn't mean we're always leaving. It's a state of clear awareness. You don't threaten. You don't perform. You simply know where your line is when something no longer aligns with your values. If you stay, it's a conscious choice. If you leave, it's not from resentment, but because you refuse to normalize ongoing harm. Both come from the same root: self-respect. Those who live with depth don't rush to walk away, but they never allow themselves to remain stuck in spaces that shrink them. They don't tie their worth to titles, roles, or people. They understand they are worthy of a fuller life. But reaching it sometimes means walking through the pain of release, letting go of unmet expectations, letting go of the need to be understood, letting go of roles they once held with pride. And from that very space of emptiness, they begin a new chapter, clearer, stronger, and more truthful than ever before. The willingness to walk away also sends a quiet but powerful message to the world. You're not afraid of loss, so you cannot be controlled. You're not dependent, so you cannot be manipulated. You don't settle, so others must reconsider how they treat you. That's what makes you commanding. not through force, but through the inner freedom you radiate. In the end, the strength to leave isn't powerful because it's dramatic. It's powerful because it proves you've faced your deepest fear. The fear of being alone, of having nothing, of becoming no one. Yet you still choose what's right. You still move forward. You still hold your dignity. And you know the road ahead may be lonely, but it won't cost you your soul. And if you must choose between holding on to what's pulling you away from your essence, or letting it go to find yourself again, a Stoic will always choose the latter, because they know sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your life is to walk away. Not because you don't care, but because you've finally started to care enough about yourself. I used to think that to earn respect, I had to constantly show up, always be present, always push harder than everyone else. But the harder I tried, the more exhausted I became, until I realized true substance doesn't come from how much you do, but from what you choose to do and what you choose to let go of. Since embracing Stoicism, I've practiced pausing before speaking, choosing silence over reaction, and stepping back at the right moment instead of staying out of fear of loss. I also started keeping promises to myself, from small things like sleep and workout times, to not saying what I don't truly believe. And I've found that each of those actions, no matter how small, has been quietly reshaping how others see me, and more importantly, how I see myself. We don't need to change our entire lives overnight. We just need to slow down a little, choose more deliberately, honor our word more often, and stay silent just long enough to see clearly what's really unfolding. This isn't a social tactic. It's a principled way of living, one with depth and gravity. And when we live this way, the world begins to respond to us differently, not because we demand it, but because we've earned it. If you're still here, it means you're not just trying to get through the day. You're genuinely seeking a life of depth, resilience, and inner freedom. Stoicism doesn't promise to erase suffering, but it does offer the tools to stand firm in the midst of it without losing yourself. If something in this video resonated with you, leave a comment that says, "I choose self-mastery," as a personal vow and as a spark for someone else reading. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next, where we keep learning how to master our emotions, sharpen our discipline, and build a life rooted in inner strength. Because in the end, peace doesn't come from the world. It comes from how we meet ourselves every single day. I'll see you in the next video.